Hello again. Thanks to everyone who subscribed, commented, liked, and shared. With your help, the channel continues to grow. On this week on episode 3, we're covering top 4 signs you're in a toxic relationship. Toxic relationships bring so many people to therapy because of the damage they do. They can contribute to anxiety, depression, and trauma. Stay tuned to the end of this video for ideas that address toxic relationships. To begin, what do toxic relationships look like? A toxic relationship creates regularly raised levels of stress. The people involved often feel helpless to fix it, or they may be blind to their own behaviors. There are often feelings of anxiety, depression, anger, and confusion. Inadequate relationship or coping skills can make it worse. Unresolved problems between partners, family, or others, and negative behavior patterns, problems communicating, abuse, and abandonment also occur. Toxic relationships happen in families, work, romance, and society. Toxic relationships can also have serious long-term physical and mental health effects. In the work I do, I find common threads. Many people have discussed these kinds of relationships with me and have been asking me for advice about them. I created this video as an overview in response to that request. To start, toxic relationships can be avoided early or ended before they cause more damage. If after watching this video you think you're in a toxic relationship, stick with me for suggested courses of action at the end. Now on to the top 4 signs you're in a toxic relationship. Remember that one or more of these issues may be present, though individually they can be an indication of the relationship being toxic. They don't all have to be present. These signs aren't ranked in any particular order. They're all important to notice, whether it's in your relationship or someone else's. The first sign is sexual, physical, or mental abuse. Sex without consent, coerced sex, or sex obtained by influence or fear is abusive and criminal. Furthermore, when a partner says conditional things such as, well, if you don't have sex with me, then you don't love me, or makes threats to make you have sex, we include it in this category because they're using harmful tactics that take advantage of you. Next, we'll talk about physical abuse. This can be threats of abuse, not letting you move freely, pushing, shoving, slapping, choking, tripping, or hitting. Other forms include throwing something at you. Some have told me that their partner has burned or cut them. These are unacceptable, punishable by law offenses. Mental abuse takes many forms, such as using put-downs, stonewalling where the abuser refuses to talk to you, intimidation, coercion, threats, and conditions or ultimatums. Oftentimes, abusive people will try to make you feel as if you're all alone or that you're unwanted. Some will try to convince you that you can't do any better. They are wrong. An important note here is sometimes people may yell at each other when they're arguing. This isn't always a sign of abuse. Just pay attention to when it happens and what it's related to. Sometimes people yell even in healthy relationships. In contrast to healthy relationships, many grow up to believe, or were conditioned to believe, that if they give a partner what they want, it will avoid argument or further abuse. They often find themselves in toxic or abusive relationships. Codependency may have been modeled to us throughout our childhood without us even knowing that that's what took place. Consequently, many of the victims of toxicity or abuse cannot see how their relationships developed or how, when they were observing these things in childhood, that then it became an adult way of living. This isn't their fault. They haven't yet figured it out, and they may with some professional help. It is sad to say that usually when abuse is tolerated even once, it likely will be repeated and may even worsen. When you're caught off guard by abuse, you may think it is isolated or the abuser will stop. This doesn't mean it has to be tolerated or that you should enable an abuser. In some circumstances, the abused are in a perpetual helpless phase because they know the abuser will use further abuse, intimidation, or dominance to prevent the seeking of help. Additionally, many abused people don't seek help right away. Most have tremendous compassion and don't want to hurt their abuser. They trust that the abuser cares about them and must have made a mistake. Though this can be true, abuse is unacceptable. As a result of fear, trust, or confusion, many permit abuse to continue. Ultimately, if the abuser doesn't experience any consequences, their behavior is likely unchanged. The consequences for the abused, however, are costly physically and mentally. Sometimes they can be deadly. If this type of abuse is happening in your relationship, first let me say how sorry I am to hear that. I would like to help. This video doesn't address how to confront violent abusers, unfortunately. If you consider someone a legitimate threat, don't put yourself in harm's way. Help is available. Next, we have the number 2 sign, manipulation and gaslighting. Manipulation is used in many ways. Often it can include lying, spinning things, distorting reality, stealing, hiding things intentionally, and many other forms of mental abuse mentioned earlier. Gaslighting is a term which refers to the method of denying, lying about, or distorting facts related to their abuse. It's an attempt to make the other person think they're just seeing things, or that their perceived reality is in fact real. Gaslighting is often used by those with personality disorders as a tool to evade their own illness. The most profound example of this was given to me by a woman who had been in a long marriage filled with domestic abuse. When she finally escaped, she went to a shelter that specializes in domestic abuse, and they had groups there. One day, the facilitator came before the group, gave every woman a blank sheet of paper, a clipboard, and a pen. She said, without showing anyone your answer, I want you to write down one name that your abuser would call you anytime you confronted them about their abuse. There were 11 women in the room. Each quickly scribbled something and placed their clipboard face down in their lap. The facilitator said, now, I want you to turn your clipboard over and show it to the group. Every clipboard had the same word written on it. Crazy. As much as I don't like that word, remember, gaslighting is when an abuser attempts to make you think you're losing touch with reality to avoid taking responsibility for their abuse. Lies and manipulation. They question your sanity to trick you into thinking they did nothing wrong, and if they did do something wrong, maybe it was your fault. In this way, you're confused and their behavior continues because you are just losing it. They didn't lie, cheat, or abuse you. If you're involved with someone who does this, your relationship is highly toxic. Number 3 on our list is control. Control can take many forms, whether it's attempting to control interactions among family, social, or work life, the type of clothing, accessories, or makeup someone wears, or control of other things such as the finances or access to transportation, food, or the regular comforts of life. Many people that have been in toxic relationships told me their partner controlled the bank account and didn't let them see any of the information or have any access. This type of behavior is a telltale sign of control. I do have one caveat here that if a couple has agreed to this situation, to this agreement because of damaging spending habits, gambling addiction, or wishing to have separate accounts to simplify things, then that's something between them. It doesn't necessarily mean there's control there. Just remember that if someone has control of significant portions of your life, you're in a toxic relationship. Last, we have substance abuse. The most important thing to recognize here is the difference between use and abuse. Many people have a few drinks here and there, or drink or smoke something after work. The question is, how often does this happen? What's it related to? Is the substance use interfering with the person's functioning in some way, such as work, school, family and social relationships, legal or mental health concerns. In treatment, we talk about impaired functioning as a way to determine abuse. It generally means someone uses enough of a substance to the point where it's affecting them or others negatively. I have, however, frequently seen successful and affluent people in my practice who think they don't have a problem because they still go to work every day. At that point, my question is, if you don't drink or use, how do you feel about life in general? Do you need to escape reality, or can you cope with it in other ways? If substances were taken away, how would it affect you? Often, those with substance use or abuse will minimize their use, and they may hide it and flat out deny it or have any concerns with it. If you're with someone who you suspect needs a substance to get through their day or is using it in daily life, it could be a problem. If you struggled with getting them to cut down or stop, you're likely dealing with substance abuse. Sometimes this causes immediate problems, sometimes the problems take time to develop. One thing is common with substance abuse, it always gets worse. If you feel substance abuse is a part of your relationship toxicity, you can take action. The person with substance abuse concerns will need help. However, they have to want that help. Much of the effort I see to make people stop never works. Those who abuse substances need to see the damage it causes firsthand. Some never stop, and others go on to recover and repair their relationships. There we have the 4 signs you're in a toxic relationship. Realizing this can be chilling, sad, and demoralizing. Some will feel like it is all my fault. Let me assure you it isn't. You may not have known how you got into the relationship. It may have been very different in the beginning. You are not alone. If you think you're in a relationship like this, help is available, both for you and the other involved people. Therapy, support groups, online forums, and videos can shed light on the topic in ways that this video may not. I encourage you to make that first step. Fear is also a constant in toxic relationships. You may be afraid to reach out and talk about this, though I can guarantee you if you can make a little effort, you will get some relief soon. Many people have also told me they know they're in a toxic relationship, though they're too scared to leave it. This is especially true for people who rely on others for housing, transportation, and support. Some have told me, I can't leave because I cannot afford to live on my own, or the kids and I don't have any place to go, or I'm already close to losing my job because of all the drama that this has been causing. I totally understand. I recommend talking with a professional when things are this complicated. In conclusion, here are a few key points. Toxic relationships involve high amounts of stress, are unresolved, and often include ongoing conflict. They can include, but aren't limited to, sexual, physical, mental abuse, gaslighting, control, and substance abuse. Just remember you're not a hostage. You're a free person who can make decisions for themselves. Preserving your health and the health of others is your top priority. Relationships can be healthy. Even if you cannot see a way out of this right now, there is a way out. Talk with professionals such as therapists, clergy, or medical staff about your concern. Silence will keep things the way they are. If toxicity isn't addressed, it will likely continue. Some abusers never change their behavior, while others have changed and are committed to healthy relationships. Abusive people can and do recover. However, it's your call to say when enough is enough. In nonviolent toxic relationships, make a plan to confront others involved. This is a great topic to approach in therapy. If they're not willing or ready to address the concerns you have with them, it's okay to set boundaries and timelines. Your therapist can help you with this. You don't have to think about everything all at once. If you would like to give someone a chance and set a timeline for expected behavior changes, that is at your discretion. Many people think they're obligated to family, work, or others, no matter how stressful those situations are. You aren't obligated, and you will be preserving your health and possibly the health of others by identifying, reducing, or getting away from the toxicity. You may seek therapy for yourself, couples therapy, family therapy, or other avenues for getting help like support groups. Many have anonymous online meetings these days. Finally, if you're being sexually or physically abused, place your safety first. If you can safely leave this situation, do. Call 911 and describe it to them. Keep numbers of people you can call who will provide a safe place to go. Keep your phone charged and your keys close. Find whatever resources you can and see if there is a way out. If you're followed, call 911 and report that as well. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. Though there was much emphasis on abuse, toxic relationships can take many forms. The important thing is to recognize what's occurring, gather resources, and act in a way that keeps you safe and healthy. I hope you found this informative. I've listed some additional resources below in the description near the subscribe button for those who are seeking help. Please subscribe, share, and comment. Your contributions really increase the discussion here and help bring new topics up. I look forward to seeing you next week here at Practically Social.